At the time of recording this video, I have lost over $12,000 on SoFi stock, and with the share price continuing to plummet through the floor, my perspective on this investment has definitely changed a bit. So today let's talk about my plan going forward with investing in SoFi. Alright, let's jump right into it. What is going on, everyone? I hope you are all having a fantastic day, or at least a better day than I am having, because I have lost a lot of money from SoFi. To bring you up to speed really fast, on June 7th of 2021, I purchased $1,000 at $21.57 per share in this video, and talked about how the IPO volatility would work its way out, in my opinion, and how I felt that SoFi stock would then head to the moon. Then later that year, on October 20th of 2021, I made a follow-up video explaining how I had been averaging down as the price fluctuated between $13 to $20 per share, and had increased my total investment to around $10,000, thinking that of course there's no way the stock price could fall much further, and spoiler alert, I was wrong again. Since the start of 2022, it has been nothing but bad news for SoFi stock, and even after making a last-ditch effort on March 21st of 2022, where I purchased an additional $15,000 of SoFi stock at $8.14 per share, which brought my average share price down to $12.52 per share, the stock has continued to plummet, and at the time of recording this video on April 22nd of 2022, SoFi stock sits at just about $6.50 per share, meaning on my total investment of $25,000, I have lost over $12,000 of that. Now, I'm used to taking some risk with my investments with a firm understanding that they are not all going to work out as I expected, and that's why it is so important that you never invest money that you can't afford to lose. Additionally, while I will definitely admit that a $25,000 investment in a single company is significantly larger than any other single stock that I own, this is still a small percentage of my total portfolio, but the real gut punch here is the fact that I believe in SoFi so much, hence the reason why I talk about it a lot on the channel, yet despite all of the positive catalysts that I've talked about previously, good news and awesome new features, the price just continues to sink lower and lower. Now, my videos on this topic have not exactly aged well in the past, so depending on when you were watching this and what has happened with the share price since then, you might be laughing at me once again. So what can we learn from all of this, and of course, where in the world is SoFi headed in the future, which is honestly hilarious for me to even say out loud, because clearly I've demonstrated that I have no idea where in the world this is headed, and you'd probably be better off just doing the exact opposite of what I think is going to happen. Putting that aside, in previous videos on this topic, we've talked about the many compounding catalysts that have not exactly been good news for SoFi. Obviously, the market as a whole has seen a pretty significant pullback in recent months, caused by international conflict and uncertainty as a result, continued supply chain issues around the world, and a number of economic factors that have been shaking our economy for a number of years at this point. But we've also talked about a lot of the positive catalysts that continue to motivate me personally to double down and triple down and invest more and more into this company that, again, I believe in so much. We talked about how SoFi received their national banking charter and the new products that they launched as a result of that. We talked about how they continued to meet and surpass their earnings projections, as well as their new member sign-up projections. And we even took a look at how SoFi's very own CEO started investing hundreds of thousands of dollars into SoFi himself just a few months ago, which in my eyes was a good sign that the price could be nearing a bottom and the company was headed in a positive direction in the long term. But despite all of that, we have to ask the question, if all of that is such good news, then what has been going on with SoFi stock? Well, all of those factors that I just mentioned definitely still play a factor here, but just a few weeks ago, the current administration announced the continued moratorium on student loans, which, as we've talked about before, is not exactly good for SoFi's bottom line. If you currently have federal student loans, then the continuation of this moratorium means that you do not currently have to make payments, and the interest on those loans is 0%. And that means that as a consumer, there's really no point in refinancing those federal loans, because you're not going to be 0% terms with no repayment necessary, at least for the foreseeable future. But from SoFi's perspective, that means that new customers are not refinancing their loans, which is a decent chunk of SoFi's business, and naturally, that has had a huge impact on their bottom line. But according to SoFi's most recent earnings report, their lending services actually no longer make up a majority of their overall customers. So while the continued moratorium on student loans is definitely still going to play a small role in their bottom line and share price, Clearly, there must be something else going on here. Well, despite the fact that those lending services don't make up a majority of SoFi's business anymore, at least from a new member sign-up perspective, it is a huge chunk of their revenue since they earn significantly more from collecting interest on student loan payments than they do from other financial products that, outside of earning some fees on debit and credit card transactions, these products typically come at no cost to the end user. Additionally, after the student loan moratorium was extended until August of 2022, company management actually cut their earnings outlook for the remainder of the year, and the stock has continued to take a huge beating since then. But even after that adjustment, their adjusted net revenue and EBITDA, which is their earnings before income, tax, depreciation, and amortization, still sits at $1.47 billion and $100 million respectively for the year. For those of you that are not financial analysis nerds, which is totally understandable, those numbers are pretty insane when compared to the stock performance over the past several months. Despite the fact that it is down over 70% from its previous highs, and the fact that the student loan repayment continues to be kicked down the road again and again, SoFi is expecting their margins will double and projects that revenue will be up 45% from the previous year. These numbers sound great on paper, but at the end of the day, despite the fact that they have a positive EBITDA, SoFi is not making money and is definitely going through some serious growing pains at the moment, which, coupled with the unfortunate market conditions and other factors added on top of all of that, things have been and unfortunately will very likely continue to be pretty rough from a stock price perspective for SoFi. So with all of that in mind, what is my plan going forward as someone who has already lost a ton of money from previous poor decision making on this particular stock? Well, I'll tell you right now that I am definitely not throwing another $15,000 at this thing like I decided to do in the last video. It doesn't mean that I won't try to continue lowering my average price per share in the future, but I need to let some of this market volatility cool off and see short sellers take some profits before I would even consider putting another penny into this already bleeding investment. To be completely honest with you, I have already broken a ton of my personal investing rules on this one because of the fact that I do feel emotionally invested, which is not a good thing, and I do really believe in this company, probably a little too much. Usually, if any single investment of mine were to fall 10% or more in such a short period of time, I would just throw in the towel and move on to the next investment. But here I am approaching the 50% loss mark. I've dollar cost average as the prices continue to go down, which is another thing that I am usually firmly against, yet I'm not ready to throw in the towel. Maybe I'm insane, maybe I'm just too emotionally invested in this one, I really don't know. But regardless of what happens next, it's all going to be on full display for all of you, which at the very least should make for some really good entertainment. So, not that this should mean anything to you, because this is not financial advice, and clearly I know absolutely nothing based on my previous track record, but here's my take on where this could all be headed. In the short term, I do think that things will continue to be painful for SoFi. Clearly, there are a lot of variables and unfortunate political and economic circumstances that are impacting SoFi at the moment, and if I'm being completely honest, I would expect that we reach August and the student loan moratorium gets kicked down the road at least one more time through the midterm election here in the US, because while it's up for debate whether or not that is economically necessary at this point, most would agree that continuing to push off people's interest in student loan payments might just help you out during an election that could decide how the remainder of your presidency goes. Politically, I really don't care, and that is not the topic of this channel, but it is important to understand the political motivations of those in power and how they will impact the investments that you and I are making. Now, in the long term, like 5 years or more, I am absolutely 100% still incredibly bullish on SoFi, and that is why I will absolutely not be throwing in the towel anytime soon. If SoFi goes bankrupt, then I am proud to say that I will be going down with the ship, and while that is probably horrible financial acumen, I've already broken all of my personal investing rules on this one, so why not stick to those bad habits for the remainder of this very bumpy investing ride? And again, if things start to settle out and perhaps the price starts to turn a corner and break out of its current downtrend, then I'm absolutely open to the idea of continuing to lower my average price per share in hopes that I could potentially turn this into a pretty huge profit if the share price were to return to anything close to its previous highs. But as always, this is just my opinion on the topic, and clearly I know absolutely nothing about this and have been wrong before, so I'd love to know what you think of SoFi stock down in the comment section below, and what your plan is going forward with this pretty unpredictable investment. Be sure to check out some of my favorite financial tools down in the description below, many of which will give you some free cash when you sign up, and if you do want to help support my channel, you can also hit the like button and subscribe subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it so much. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.